by the local NGOs, international bodies like Red Cross. We have Medical Sans Frontiers, AMREF, and Center for Disease. So those are kind of the non-governmental organizations that actually are doing hot stuffs in the community, like helping them in issues pertaining to health and sanitation. So generally, that is my perspective about Kibera, and I'm optimistic as the way things are going, it's getting better and better.
Halfway through 2007, I finished my business degree in Melbourne, studying mostly accounting. I was in the workforce for a very short time before I realized this wasn't really what I wanted to do.
I know I had a great life in New York, right? I mean, New York City, I had a fabulous apartment and great friends, and not that I've given up, my friends, because they're still there. But I had a wonderful life. But I think I think part of me maybe just never felt complete. It was a very selfish life to live in New York.
So I tried to think of something new that might give me a life experience that directed the rest of my life. And I decided to come to Africa for 5 months to Kenya to volunteer with children, which was something I'd never done before, a completely new experience. My first few months here was relatively positive, as I felt I was doing something good, and for myself I also felt that I was learning new things about myself which were going to help me in the future. Unfortunately, the time at the place I was at started to grow towards the negative side as I realised what was going on there. It was a very corrupt place run by a very evil man, is an easy way to put it, which is a very common thing here in Kenya, unfortunately.
But these kids just really suffered and suffered and suffered and suffered, and it was terrible to watch. And so Stuart and I sat down and talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, and we're like, how can we help? We can't leave these children in this absolutely horrendous situation. And we joked, oh, we'll kidnap the kids, And then one day we just talked and talked and talked and realized that we could do it, that we could, not kidnap the kids, but that we could stay here and maybe try to help.
And seeing all the suffering here, the abuse of the kids here, was really hard to just go home and forget about it. So we said we're going to stay here, we're going to open up our own children's home, and we'll see what we can do to help the kids here.
Why Bolivia?
¿Por qué Bolivia? Mira chico, pues es muy fácil, ¿no? Why not?
I'm running an organization, a youth-based organization, and we're working here in Bolivia with intercultural issues and trying to build a new culture of dealing with each other in diversity. So that's what I do. Most of my childhood was here in La Paz, although my mother started working in an airline as a counter. So we had the chance to travel a little bit, and I always had family abroad. So when I was 5 years old, I was in San Francisco for some time, and I have not been in only one school here. So I think changing has been a constant in my life. And although when I was smaller, at the beginning I was a little bit scared about that, to enter a new school or something like that, I think it was that kind of experiences that really gave me the learning that we don't have to fear when something is going to change, because we're not losing anything, we're transforming something. During all these years, while I was in school and living here in Bolivia and also having some experiences abroad, I always wonder why my society was so full of different divisions and fragmentations. I remember so much, for example, when the first school where I was like 10, and I had a friend, her name is Sadia, and she was an Afro-Bolivian. And I remember how some people in my class would laugh about that. If there has been something I have learned in my life, is that I don't need something from outside to make me great or unique. I actually need to recognize that in me. And then when I do that, as I said, everything will work out.
Realizing your own uniqueness is in part when you realize the diversity of someone else. And when you learn how someone else lives, you either might appreciate your own circumstances more, or you might realize you need to make changes in your life. I think a whole bunch of thoughts come into play once you understand someone else.
Because if you appreciate yourself, if you learn to like yourself, then you learn to like and love others, you learn to appreciate others, so you'll be a better neighbor, a better friend, a better husband, a better father, a better manager, a better minister, a better president.
To be unique, it's given. I think all of us are unique. Now there's a difference between being unique and not being able to recognize it because of our fears, because not believing that we're unique, because thinking that to be unique is something special for just some people, or to think that to be unique is to never make mistakes and being successful in a way that you're perfect, in a conception of perfect that means probably not very human. So I think we're all unique. And that's probably one of our challenges in this life. It's to get that conscious of how unique we are, because we are all here for something.
And once the nun wrote a school report, and the school report said, Herbert can't read, Herbert can't write, Herbert is not interested in education at all. But we must leave him alone, because he would live off his natural talent. And when my grandmother opened the thing, she went, well, I don't understand what that nun is talking about. So she grabbed me, took me to school, and the nun told her, she said, your grandson has got a God-given natural talent. Leave him. He doesn't want to do that, but he will be all right. And they were exactly right, because I am all right.